Thanks for checking out Chamber Web TV. This is Cambridge Votes 2014, a conversation with the candidates for the upcoming October 27th municipal election. I'm Greg DeRoche, your President and CEO of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to sit down with Regional Chair candidate Paul Myles. Paul.
Greg, great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. I know you're hot off the campaign trail, and
Yes.
it's been well, the weather hasn't been great the last few days for doing campaigning. But have you been knocking on some doors? Have you been?
I have been actually knocking on some doors. So I've been going door to door trying to get the word out. I haven't spent nearly as much time down in Cambridge going door to door as I would have liked, but I'm planning to rectify that in the upcoming weeks.
Well, you've got a few weeks left. You've got some time to get out there and bang on doors. However, advanced polls do open in the next couple of days, I guess, throughout the region. So it's going to be interesting. And I got a question for you at the end of this that I'm going to talk about because it fits your age demographic. But first and foremost, Paul, why is Paul Myles running?
Well, I decided to run because I've lived in the region for 6 years, and I've just noticed that it seems, we seem to have all this wonderful money to be able to accomplish wonderful projects, but it seems like sometimes we're neglecting the basic needs of our citizenry. And I just find that abhorrent in such a region where, we do generally have it extremely well in Waterloo region, but I do feel that there are some things that need to be improved on, and that's why I'm running, is to improve things such as affordable housing, infrastructure, and the like.
Wow, very articulate young man. The regional debt has hit the news in the last few weeks. It's apparently doubled in the last few years. What's your feeling on the regional debt, and as regional chair, how would you address that regional debt issue?
Well, originally the regional debt was sitting at $185 million in 2009. At the end of this year, it'll be sitting at $548 million, which is actually $7 million shy of tripling to $555 million.
So I was wrong. I thought it doubled.
Well, that was the headline that they ran in the record. Yeah. I contacted them to let them know it's actually been more closer to a triple effect, but I haven't seen anything. So
what would you do as regional chair?
Well, as regional chair, some of it is, because for a lot of people, if they go to buy a car or a house, they generally do it by acquiring debt for that purpose.
Yeah, sure.
In which case, then it's smart, good debt.
Yeah.
But it seems like what we're doing is not really for the long term. I know the LRT is going to be a long-term plan.
Well,
for us.
that debt, the current debt level doesn't include the LRT.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be on top of that.
I really think, we need to come up with a new strategy in which to get more financing out of the province and the federal government. Now, with LRT construction, because Kathleen Wynne did announce that she's planning to spend $130 billion over the next 10 years on infrastructure improvements, I think we should be able to call on them for additional funding in the region for infrastructure projects.
Oh, very good. Very good. Another thing that the area municipalities, along with the region, are working on an economic development plan. They're really looking at kind of creating a new organization rather than CTT. CTT's mandate was largely very connected to government. They're responsible for foreign direct investment. This new organization would be somewhat more disconnected from government, largely private sector run. However, we understand that as a result of the LRT going in, the region's focus really needs to be on intensifying the build around the LRT corridor. Mm-hmm. We have to we're getting LRT now, we have to make it work. Yes. We have to get the ridership on there that was estimated. And if we don't have development around that, then we're likely going to be seeing empty trains going down the road, and we don't want to see that. However, Cambridge has a unique situation in coming together as a regional economic development when we understand clearly the focus has got to be on the intensification. Cambridge is an industrial community. Over 50% of the industrial assessments in Cambridge for the region of Waterloo. We are what we are. We have the largest per capita factory worker there is in Ontario in Cambridge. So, the LRT is not going to go out into the industrial sections. It's, and our concern really would be the focus of attention on trying to bring manufacturing to our community. What do you think of the whole idea of concept of regional economic development, and how do you think, as regional chair, Cambridge would fit into that?
Well, I feel that the region and the area municipalities, they need to work together in partnership. Now, I do feel that I've been told that with the LRT, it's going to be essentially act as a spine for future transit developments where we are all connected into the LRT system. Now, I do feel, Cambridge has done a wonderful job in maintaining its manufacturing base. I do feel, because it has such a large manufacturing base, they provide living wages for people. And I think that's the important thing when we're doing the re-intensification in Kitchener and Waterloo, that we concentrate on living wage jobs that are coming into the area, because that's where we seem to be suffering right now in Kitchener. I'm just finding most of the jobs available are not, a livable wage.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to refocus that to get more livable wage jobs in our
What's
region.
a livable wage?
Well, I've been hearing from the Anti-Poverty Coalition that a living wage for our region would be somewhere in the neighborhood of around $18. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to go all the way to 18. I know I was living far more comfortably when I was working a factory job, getting $16 an hour, than I am right now doing temp work for less than 12.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. And it is a challenge that, the factory jobs, industrial jobs generally do pay a higher wage. You find very few of them that are at the minimum wage level because they simply can't attract employees to come in and work in a factory for that. As you may or may not know, the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce was opposed to the LRT project. We weren't opposed or aren't opposed to funding public transportation. We believe it's important. A lot of our businesses rely on it as well. We were opposed to the project primarily because we didn't think it was the right technology and it was the wrong time to introduce that type of technology. However, we are also opposed to the fact that many experts told us that Cambridge in the foreseeable future could never qualify to get the LRT. We just won't have the ridership. We're so far away from the ridership levels to warrant an LRT system that it would take many, many years. In fact, one expert actually told us we won't see the ridership levels here to justify LRT until the turn of the century. And yet, Cambridge taxpayers have to pay for their fair share, their third or whatever it is of the LRT. That said, Premier Wynne, as you just mentioned, they're going to spend tremendous amounts of money on infrastructure. Premier Wynne has agreed to look at the Stage 2, which is at Cambridge. We now have a member of the government in the Cambridge riding. What would you do as regional chair to advance that project so Cambridge maybe could see the LRT a little quicker?
Well, like you said, I would ask all of our area MPPs to put pressure on the Liberal government to secure the funding for our Phase 2 expansion. Now, I do feel, that because in some cases with LRT systems that they don't make them long enough so they're not able to be successful. I know the current system is supposed to be about 19 kilometers. I'm not sure if that's quite long enough for what we need. And another concern that I have is that I'm not sure if it's going to be able to go fast enough to compete with cars and trucks on the road. But I know that the trains that we're purchasing, they're supposed to be able to get up to 80 kilometers per hour. And I'm not saying that they should be blasting down every street at 80 kilometers an hour because that would just create a dangerous situation.
Bedlam. Yep.
But it does need to be able to move at a reasonable speed, in order to effectively compete against the cars.
Yeah, that's very good. I think, it will be interesting when I'm sure every candidate and everyone would like to see LRT go from one end of the region to the other. But again, you got to be practical about that. You can't throw billions of dollars at something that you can't justify, and that's really where the question is going to come in. Go service is critically important to Cambridge as well. We've been we've been advocating for go service to Cambridge for over 30 years. We really feel it's a service that we've been a little bit of a bedroom community to Toronto anyway for many, many years. The line is only 18 kilometers to connect to the Milton line here. We find that it's great that Premier Wynne has brought GO service to Kitchener. It's great she's announced two-way all day. We think that's fantastic as well. However, if you live in South Kitchener or in Cambridge, you're not going to drive all the way into Kitchener to take the GO into Toronto because it's an over 2-hour ride into Toronto, where the Cambridge leg would be about an hour and 10 minutes and would really service the south end of the region commuters anyway. What would you do as regional chair to help Cambridge get its GO service in the next few years?
Well, I do think it is important for an expansion of the Go service. Now, basically, I hate because I'm saying beginning to sound a little bit of a broken record, but it would be to contact the premier, contact the government, in order to secure funding for that. Because I do feel that the south part of Kitchener and Cambridge would tremendously benefit from having that. So unfortunately, it's the only thing I can think of right now is just to actively go out and constantly advocate with them. Try to bring that into Cambridge.
I think they also feel, the region feels anyway, that that connected GO service with the LRT line up in Kitchener and Waterloo is going to enhance the LRT project. It's going to create ridership on there.
Yes.
People can leave their cars at home, take the LRT down to the GO station, take the GO into Toronto. Do you think the same thing would happen in Cambridge if the LRT was closely connected to where the link was for GO?
I do, and I think that would be something for us to plan out for the future. Now, the way we have to do it though is we have to carefully plan it to make sure that we have room to put these structures in place. Like, because right now the current strategy seems to be is like, okay, we'll just build a bunch of houses and then we'll worry later about where to pop in the community centers or like the schools or like a hospital, ambulance station, fire hall. Those always seem to be afterthoughts, and I think that's wrong. We need to incorporate it into the design plans from the scratch, like from when we start and get to that level of detail. They need to be in the plan so we can leave the space for them to be built later, rather than having to be like, oh, well, we're going to have to expropriate, half a dozen properties in order to put this in.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting the roof on your house before you build the house.
Exactly.
I think you have to build the house first.
Yeah.
Our international airport, I don't know whether you've used it. I've used it a lot. In fact, even though it's, some people would say, it's a pain in the neck to fly to Chicago and change planes. Quite frankly, what I found is they got great burgers at O'Hare Airport. In spite of the fact that O'Hare might be a little confusing for some people, it's very easy to get around. And they do have great burgers. And I always try and make sure I got an extra hour and a half between my flights so that I can make sure I get that burger. But nonetheless, we have some great service out of the region of Waterloo. WestJet, of course, flies it to the west. We did lose our bearskin, but that wasn't because the KW region wasn't using it. It was because bearskin had a problem with getting access to the Ottawa airport, and we're working very diligently to try and get another carrier in there. But our airport's a key fundamental component, we believe, to economic development in the region. We need to strengthen that airport. Recently, the region did a review and to see where they should go.
Right.
They had 4 options. Option 1 was do nothing. Option 2 was do nothing except maybe paint the outside of the building. I say that facetiously, but option 3, of course, started into the enhancements and building out the airport. And it really spoke to not public money being used to build the airport. It talked to opening up the door of opportunity for private investment. Where really the private sector money would expand the airport. And maybe even reduce some of the dependency. Right now, the region throws $6 million a year or thereabouts into the airport.
Right.
Hopefully, we can mitigate that a little bit and reduce that by having private sector investment. What do you think about our airport? Do you think it's important? Do you think we should be relooking at that and opening it up?
Well, I do think having an airport is important. I would like to see the airport concentrate on becoming more of an air freight hub right now. That way then we can get the larger runways to be able to handle larger aircraft, in which case that might encourage the current carriers that we have, which is WestJet and American Airlines, to really evaluate what types of flights they'd be able to offer out of our airport. Now, private investment, I feel would be beneficial to it, but I don't want to give up public oversight. It is our airport. We have to be responsible for it. I just wouldn't want to hand it over lock, stock, and barrel over to the private investment and interest and be like, have fun, guys.
Well, I think at that point, then you do. I would agree with you. I think having the region manage the airport and run the airport operations is critically important. We can mitigate the noise, but that was one of the primary issues. When in looking at it was. There's tons of complaints from South Kitchener and even some of the Cambridge area where the airplanes come in a little bit low when they're landing or taking off early in the morning at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6:30 in the morning. Some of them are fairly loud going over there, but the whole idea or concept, I think, around the private sector involvement was to increase the revenue streams to the airport to be able to mitigate that by different flight patterns, having full-time staff in the tower, that kind of thing. So you would agree that would be good as well, I assume.
I do feel it would be a good idea. Now, I know with Pearce International Airport, which is a much larger airport than what we have here, they actually change their flight paths, their active runway, every 2 hours to try to mitigate some of the noise complaints and stuff like that. Now, I realize we do have fewer number of runways.
We only have 2 runways.
So, I know adjusting the flight paths would be a little bit harder to do, especially because sometimes you can have too strong of a crosswind, so it wouldn't be safe to try landing on the other runway. But I think there are instances where we have nice calm days where the weather's cooperating. I wouldn't be against adjusting flight paths just to try to give some residents a break from the constant overhead air traffic.
Yeah, no, that's good. So, Paul.
Yes.
Because you're young enough to be able to look down that path, what's your Waterloo region look like in 25 years?
Okay, well, I think what the region of Waterloo will look like in 25 years, we will have seen the expansion of the LRT Phase 2 would be complete. The GO service would be connected into Cambridge as well as the south end of Cambridge. I also feel that we would start running lines out, to expand the LRT network out into the outlying areas, like a station up in Elmira through St. Jacobs, reach out to New Hamburg to get a station out there just because they have a growing population. And I'm sure, having because there doesn't seem to be much public transportation out that way, that an idea of something like that would help them feel more part of the region rather than, oh, we're out here all by ourselves in this township, and the region doesn't care about us. I feel, if we do the LRT planning correctly for the future development for offshoots, that we'd be able to make the region, a cohesive unit where you can travel from end to end, get to the most common attractions without having to need a car anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, as the community grows, if we add another 200,000 people to the community, we already have traffic congestion, we already have traffic issues, and I think that's, was the planning reasons for looking at this, and we just simply think that it would have been greater to elevate the system as opposed to put it on already congested roads.
Yes. Well, again, moving for the future, I figure that eventually we're probably going to end up with a grid of LRT systems. Now, my plan for the future is any LRT past Phase 1, Phase 2, any new lines would be elevated just so it would be above the traffic. I would also consider doing, I mentioned this in the Rogers TV debate, where I would actually have the trains pull into high-rise buildings where the lower section would be for dentist office, lawyers, accountants, convenience store on the ground level. There'd be a level of storage, then it'd be the train line, then it'd be another level of storage above that, and then affordable housing on top of that, because we do have a serious issue with affordable housing in our region. Right now, the average family is waiting 3 years to get into affordable housing. Average senior is looking at a 6-year wait time, and I think that is just abhorrent. Our citizens deserve better, and we're capable of doing better, but for whatever reason, we're simply not doing it.
Yeah, affordable housing issue is a big issue with just about every candidate, and of course it's a community concern, and the homelessness as well. As we grow as a community, we don't do anything about it, we're just going to have more of it.
Yes.
There's some unique options in the world that, I look at these shipping containers being converted into, for homeless people.
Yeah, the little studios?
Yeah, and they put almost little condo complexes together, and they look quite neat.
Well, I wouldn't be against such an idea. It's just a matter of being able, because I feel the issue of the homeless, I've been told by, in the debates, that that's supposed to be an issue of the province, and I disagree with that. It should be a responsibility of all levels of government. Your local government, in the case where we have a local government, the city of Cambridge, and then a regional government, I feel that both parties should be involved with trying to create a solution for that, as well as the province and the federal government. So it should be all levels of government should be concentrating more for the homeless, because with being such an advanced society as we are, there's really no reason we can't get these people into homes. Now, there will still be a small percentage that would choose to live outdoors, But generally, most people that are homeless, they didn't choose that. That was, it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances that happened to them that put them into that position.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Anything else that you want to push forward as regional chair?
Well, it's, I would like to see improved GRT service in Cambridge, just because that was a concern that I've been hearing about, is that apparently it seems to stop too early in the night for some residents because of the shift work,
Yeah.
as well as students coming home from the universities. Also seem to apparently have an issue where they have to walk several kilometers from the last stop that they're able to get to, because the route that services, the building that they live in is no longer running. So I'm just wondering if maybe perhaps I could get in contact with the GRT to discuss ways of maybe we do a nighttime route system where after a certain time we combine a couple of routes together to try to get the service
Yeah.
out, just so people don't have to walk for kilometers at the end of the night.
I
'Cause
know-
it's dark, and everyone, they're tired, they just want to get
Yeah,
home.
I know there's another concern that some people, commuters especially that commute throughout the region, are concerned about the new system, the ABRT system, where they love the I-Express because they can get on the bus in Ainsley Street on the I-Express and don't have to get off the bus until they get up into the north end of Waterloo, where their destination might be. Where now with the new ABRT, it's going to go up right to the LRT station at Fairview Mall, then you got to get off of that, get on the LRT and go up. So, my understanding is from some of the riders, they tell me it's going to be an extra half an hour to do that. So,
Well, I would certainly hope it wouldn't be that long. Like, as far as I was aware, it should be timed in such a way that the train would be waiting for the bus to come into the station, and then they offload their passengers. So the bus and the train would be there for about 5-10 minutes, so they can trade passengers for going the other
Yeah,
direction, and then resume. Like, I would certainly hope that it's definitely not a half an hour wait time, because that is just, it's, then why did we get rid of the I-Express?
Well-
If we're adding in that much more time, because
Yeah.
from end to end, it can take sometimes, like, almost 90 minutes, depending on traffic conditions,
Yeah.
to get from Ainsley Street Terminal all the way to Conestoga Mall on
Yeah.
the I-Express. So I feel that's too long. Now I realize, buses, they're controlled in traffic and everything.
Yeah.
Where I feel, a better planned out LRT where it would have been elevated and more direct route, because, you wouldn't have had to follow the highway. You would have been able to just follow the tracks
Yeah.
wherever we decide to lay them across. And I feel that would have been a wiser decision. Like, I still feel, that the current plan to lay down so much new track up on King Street, don't think that's the right idea. I have my concerns about it. I would have felt we would have been a lot better off twinning the existing rail corridors.
yeah.
Because I feel with the money that we're spending on phase one, if we had twinned the existing rail corridors, we could have had train service down into Cambridge.
Yeah.
Instead of now we have to wait,
Might have
secure
been
additional
faster
funding.
too. Might have been a little bit faster if you could have coordinated GRT to blend in nicely so that commuters can get off.
And also, because of the speeds that the train were able to go, we would also have to have looked into barrier protection, just to avoid people from accidentally wandering through the tracks. That way, then the trains would be able to run at a higher speed to be more competitive with the cars.
It's going to be an interesting story as we go forward in the Waterloo region.
It will be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for checking out Chamber Web TV. This is Cambridge Votes 2014, a conversation with the candidates for the October 27th municipal election. Again, I'm Greg DeRocher, and it's been my pleasure to sit down with regional chair candidate Paul Myles. Paul, good luck.
Thank you very much.